Welcome everyone, Costin here with my Dwarf character leveling guide for Total War Warhammer 3 for Legendary Lords, Heroes, and also regular Lords because, well, regular Lords just are Legendary Lords. You apply the same principles, you just remove the idea that you have to worry about a special skill line. So starting with Ungram, what you want to get first off is Room Archer, then Inspiring Presence. And when it comes to Ungam's campaign, you do have an early game choice to make with regards to your skill line, because you're not going to be able to recruit Quarrelers by the time you're dealing with Skarsnik, so you might be tempted into going into Axelord. Or you might feel confident enough in your ability to deal with Skarsnik, and to be quite honest, a bunch of melee attack and melee defense is not necessarily going to make that much of a difference. And you might be confident enough so you can go full-on Tactician. That would be the smarter decision to go for in the long term. But you do want to eliminate Skarsnik as quickly as possible. You could also end up in a situation where you get the second army, which is going to start recruiting those Quarrelers for you. But it is going to take a number of turns for you to be able to get Quarrelers, but it is absolutely the smart thing to do. Now, once you've got Tactician, you should save up for your special skill line. As I've mentioned with other Legendary Lords that I have covered, is the smarter thing to do. So, once you do this, once you get Tactician, you just wait until you're rank 12. You could get Grudge against the Foul, so you can get that leadership and melee attack benefit against Greenskin and Skaven, and leadership against Ogres as well. Or you could ignore it and instead just save up for the special skill line that Ungram does have. Now, you do only need 4 points over here, so you could go even further over here, so I would recommend getting Obstinacy, which is 15% vigor loss reduction, and then also get full plate armor. And that's going to put you at rank 8. Now, the High King ability, that's kind of worth it, sure, but it's not necessarily too big of a deal. But it might be worth it as opposed to just getting one of the special skills. Because, for instance, when you're looking at Elite Enforcer, is that really important early on? Because you're not going to recruit Thanes by rank 12, that's for certain. And an upkeep benefit for Longbeards and Hammers isn't too important. The artillery benefit is, the income from all buildings and research rate absolutely is, but not necessarily Elite Enforcers right off the bat, because that's the decision you're really making over here by choosing to go with High King. You're sacrificing 1 point in the special skill line to get to the bell later. Now, at this point, just stop, wait for a special skill line, and then bother with everything else. But getting Rune of Grimnir would be the choice that you should make, and also getting Thunder for the missile strength and ammunition. Now, this puts me at rank 12 on this particular list. You want to get Ancient Bloodline, Fire Support, crucially for the ammunition for artillery and missile strength, and Advanced Forging for the hero capacity of Runesmiths. And then once you're higher rank, you get Elite Enforcer as well. Then you finish up. Then you get the full-on Thunderer points and also rally into Dawi Firepower, because you do want that missile strength, you do want the reload time reduction and missile resistance, and also stand your ground. Now, the other skills, like Mogram's favored, absolutely, but the other 2 skills are not important. So at this point, what you would really want to do is get Hard to Hit, Scarred Veteran, Force Foe Seeker into Blade Shield, Blade Master, Deadly Onslaught, and then worry about the blue skill line. But the thing is, the blue skill line is kind of meaningless in a lot of ways, with one major exception that might be worth it. So getting 3 points in Mason, 1 point in Miner's Instinct, or completely ignoring Mason and instead just getting full-on Miner's Instinct, 1 point in Mason. Because while this is obviously a useful benefit, you're probably not going to spend too much time in provinces with Ungram. So going into Iron Weld, Inspirational Leader, because Dwarfs have crap casualty replenishment, Reassuring Presence, into Inquiring Mind for research rate and upkeep. But it isn't really too big of a priority to go with this. Like, one of the things I would say, like, the Dwarf skill line and the blue skill line is kind of crap, really, to be honest. And once you get all of this, well, there's not really much else to bother with. So these are the important skills to get on Forgrim. Moving on to Grombrindle, he's a completely different bucket of bolts, if you will. With Grombrindle, you do want Inspiring Presence, obviously. Like, you want to get the Legendary Commerce and Inspiring Presence as quickly as possible. But what you want to do is get absolutely Relentless as quickly as possible. Don't worry about anything else here just yet. But what you really, really want is that campaign movement range, because it is a lot. Now, his special skill line isn't really too important with the exception of the first point. So you can really, with Grombrindle, you can really just focus on getting other skills, and you probably will want the other skills. So I would actually go full-on Tactician with him. Full-on Tactician, Obstinacy, Rune of Grimnir, maybe even... and ignore everything else right here at this particular point. Although eventually getting Get Up is going to be important. So go with Tactician, don't bother with anything else. Go Get Up, and then get Mountain Strider. And what you're really interested in here is, like, you don't really care about Mighty Beard of Defense because you're not interested in it. Mythical Longevity, yes, absolutely. Ammunition for Iron Drakes and War Machines. What counts as a War Machine? Well, this list is not telling me. But you do start with an Iron Drake unit, and having Missile Strength and Ammunition for that is pretty important. And Age of Vengeance can be pretty substantial as well if you're going for it. That extra speed is really, really useful. The other two, not too important, though obviously having more ability uses for Grombrindle has no fear, can always be useful, and eventually, like Mighty Beard of Defense, then you maximize Get Up, or you get Fire and Fury and then get Up, or not Fire and Fury, I'm talking out of my ass, get Thunderer, into Rally, into Dowie, Firepower, Morgrim's Favorite, Stand Your Ground, and then, Get Up, Full Plate Armor, Hard to Hit, Scarred Veteran, Mentor when it comes available. Don't really bother too much with the Time of the Ancestors, it's not too important. Blade Shield, Blade Master, Deadly Onslaught, and then, if you so desire, you can get Time of the Ancestors, Full-on Mentor. And you could also benefit full-on from getting Eagerkin and Ancient Acumen, or just dropping Eagerkin and getting the Ancient Acumen if you so desire. Say that the recruit rank is more important. Casualty Replenishment. There are mods that give Dwarfs Casualty Replenishment, so if you're playing on modded, then you obviously get up as the biggest benefit you can get. But if you have mods, it's not as important. And then, Woundmaker. Grombrindle's damage potential is actually fairly high. And then, Ancient Grudge. Looking at Foreign Ironbrow, Inspiring Presence, Room Archer, Tactician, save up until 12, that's the idea. Then you get Rune of Speed, Rune of Wrath and Ruin, Rune of Grimnir, Veteran Anvil Guard, or you get Rune of Grimnir, Rune Master. You could also get Greater Locus of Power by rank 11. Though, obviously, you're saving points for getting the special skill line. And you absolutely should, because it is a really, really powerful skill line. And once you're rank 12, what's important over here is you want to get that construction cost and construction time for all buildings in the province as you're taking over territory. It's really construction time that's more beneficial, I'd argue, if you are actually capable of building stuff. But really, proven tools is the most important benefit that you can get here, because it makes your quarrelers substantially better than they are. It gives your grudge thrower units a Rune of Seeking, and it also causes your bolt throwers, if you would ever want to recruit bolt throwers, to do explosive damage, but also crucially reduce leadership. Then you want to get Runic Talismans. That's pretty damn powerful, because the Master Rune of Spine and Master Rune of Grooming both together with Ward Save is pretty powerful. Runic Production Lines to get Frenzy for his entire army, and enacting Exacting Standards, Ornery Overseer, and then Thunderer. And you start with a Runesmith, so actually buffing his rune line isn't too important. So I would focus more so on his army, and then yeah, go with the Rune of Wrath and Ruin, Damping, Rune of Oath and Steel, Forge Fire, Rune of Hearth and Home, Wardbreaker, or rather Wardbreaker, Rune of Hearth and Home, and then strike the runes. And that's kind of it. That's all that's really important with for Grim. Everything else is like, yeah, just basically fluff. But eventually with Dwarves, you do ideally want to get Inspirational Leader. I think if this skill was earlier, like Wall Breaker, Wall Master is not really too important. Like, I would easily trade Inspirational Leader for Wall Master over here. Or even Purebeard. Ungram, Iron Fist, useless Legendary Lord in a lot of ways. So what you're really going to focus on is keep in mind with Ungram rather. Keep in mind with Ungram, you're not really going to be able to recruit anything except Slayers early on, but you do obviously want to get the Tactician benefit as quickly as possible. The skill line here is completely and utterly worthless, with the exception of Doomseekers. So you could, if you so desire, you could go. I would recommend Determined Death Blow, because you're just going to use it far more than Extremely Daring Death Blow. And then I probably recommend the benefit against either Warriors of Chaos or against Greenskins. Probably Greenskins, and then get Doomseekers just for that casualty replenishment. So you could, with Ungram, you could, one of the strategies you could go for is obviously you want Rune Marcher. That's without doubt. But getting Determined Death Blow into Doomseekers, that just requires rank 5. And the crucial thing about this is this gives you a lot of casualty replenishment for Slayers, allowing you to auto-resolve, allowing you to recover from battles very quickly, which can be pretty important. You could even skip on Rune Marcher and instead just go for that by rank 4. Then Inspiring Presence, Tactician, Obstinacy, Rune of Grimnir. This will put you at rank 11. The Slayer benefit is not worth it. So Ungram is the only one you don't save for a special skill line, though you're obviously going to you want to get Doomseekers as quickly as possible if you're going to use Slayers. It is worth it to get that 15% casualty replenishment. Like, if I'm playing an Ungram campaign, I am certainly getting a couple of Slayers early on, at least for his army, even if Journey's End does not work at the moment. It is bugged. There are mods that do fix it. Either way, eventually you do obviously want to get the artillery, so Thunderer, Rally, and yeah, getting that 10% physical resistance for Slayers, getting all of these skills, and then eventually, yeah, getting Slayer, Dragon Slayer, all of these skills, rank 23, then full plate armor. It is more important to buff the army with Ungram, I'd argue, than it is important to buff him. He's got to have a good amount of power regardless. But eventually you do obviously want to get like Hard to Hit, Scarred Veteran, Foe Seeker. You may also, if we're looking at this, like, actually this is kind of worthless. Like, Slayers don't need more melee attack and weapon strength because they have plenty already. What they need is survivability. So like, so getting Honored by Grimnir is important because of that physical resistance. Getting Grimnir's heirs, less so. But you obviously can get it eventually. Like, eventually, sure, it is important, but not early on. We're talking about early priorities in a campaign. And then just balancing out various things, getting Deadly Onslaught, and then, yeah, the blue skill line as usual. Moving on to Belgar. Belgar has one of the most powerful special skill lines. He has an absurdly strong special skill line. So don't ignore that. Don't ignore it because it is going to be really, really damn powerful. By the way, like usual stuff, like, Rune Marcher, Inspiring Presence, Tactician, Full Plate Armor, Obstinacy, Hard to Hit. You don't need that. Like, I would probably argue Thunder any day, right? And then Rune of Grimnir, Rally the Holds, Diplomatic Relations and Global Recruitment benefit is powerful. Local Recruitment can recruit rank. Town Warfare can be pretty damn good if you decide, like, eventually to give him a full ranger army. But crucially, it can give you a minor benefit early on, and you do start on both miners and rangers in your campaign. And hey, miners with blasting charges, get a couple of them, maybe, as Belgar, if you so desire. But importantly, like, Age of Reconquest is crucial, I'd argue, as well as Ancestral Guidance. Oath of Reclamation, not so important, though the leadership benefit in foreign territory is obviously useful. And then, yeah, just same old stuff, like getting these skills, getting the balance between melee skill line and specialist skill line. If you're playing as Belgar, I strongly recommend eventually getting a ranger, full-on ranger army, because 20% missile strength with rangers is pretty damn powerful that you can get. And since he has so many Thanes, you can always get a Thane that has snipe with him. This is a benefit of Belgar. But my recommendation is to probably play another campaign and then Confederate Belgar. That's the smarter choice, as I see it. Then moving on to Heroes, Master Engineer. You always want to go... into increased mobility whenever possible with this. And I probably recommend Requisition as opposed to Triangulation. Like, Triangulation is 12% missile strength. Requisition is 20%, the 20% ammo. But yeah, increase mobility whenever it's possible. Then get Triangulation, then get the Zoof bars, and just balance it out between these two. Leadership Aura, not important. Sapper, not really important. Rune of Grimnir, 1 point, sure. Flash Bomb, kind of. Then you do have a choice over here between like a shorter range or a longer range. The thing about the longer range is that you get ballistic calibration. So generally speaking, getting ballistic calibration is the more important thing. I would ignore Bare Essential because losing 30 armor hurts pretty badly. Hurts in a fairly substantial way, so don't bother with that skill and instead get literally everything else, like missile resist, missile speed, relentless for his own speed, all of those kind of things. But really, it's important to just get Requisition into Triangulation into Zufbar ones, and yes, very important to increase mobility whenever possible, because that's the most important skill they bring. Then looking at the Runesmiths, you should always try and get Scouting whenever possible. But otherwise, Rune of Speed into Rune of Wrath and Ruin. You could sharpen weapons or harden armor, but just keep in mind you're going to lose that Scouting ability. It depends on what you're dealing with in the campaign. Like how much you're going to want that harden armor. I would say improving the armor is probably the smarter choice most of the time. But like you might just want to get those magical items. However, you can always craft magical items as dwarves, so you might even want to prioritize hardened armor. Like if I'm playing a Grumbrindle campaign, for instance, then hardening armor is the smart thing to do. But other campaigns, I'd probably go Scouting first off, and then eventually hardened armor. But yeah, Rune of Wrath and Ruin, Damping, Forge Fire, and just always going back to Scouting, Rune of Hearth and Home. Over here, Rune of Grimnir, getting some points in Relentless, but not as a priority. Rune of Negation can be useful, but then yeah, you just get Relentless, and just balancing it out, get every rune eventually, and eventually do get hardened armor to help your particular army, and then yeah, Rune of Oath and Steel. Rune of Slowness can also be useful. But after that point, the rest of the points are fluff. Then the Thane. The Thane, you want to get Training, Full Plate Armor, Hard to Hit, Foe Seeker. Whenever training is available, just get Training over here. Scar Veteran. Okay, so at rank 12, you do have a choice. And this gives you a choice between the following three things. Vigor Loss Reduction, Guardian Ability, which is 15 physical resistance, and Expert Charge Defense. Can be useful for the Guardian effect, but not so much for the Vigor Loss Reduction for hammers. Hammers are not worth using. Iron Beard, however, can be really powerful as well, because it gives you 50% extra ammunition for Iron Drakes, Iron Breakers, and minor units. So if you're getting a bunch of those units in your army, absolutely. Or later on, you can get Wanderer, which gives you Snipe for Ranger. So you do have this particular choice between these units. I'd probably get the first one as Ironbeard, and then the second one like with Wanderer. Like if I have 2 Thanes in an army, then my goal would be to have both of these, because I would probably want to use both Iron Drakes and Rangers. Though keep in mind that it can be easier to get access to Rangers than it is, in some ways, to get access to a good amount of Rangers than a good amount of Iron Drakes. I would not bother with miners with blasting charges. Past like the very, very early game, I would just not bother with it. And then, yeah, every other point is just fluff. Same idea. Buff everything up. And that's it. Like, the Thanes really could use more skills, I think. Because, like, at this point, you can really maximize a lot of their potential by, like, rank 20. And after that, everything else is just kind of fluff, really, in their campaign. I mean, obviously, Woundmaker, hard to hit, maximizing everything here, sure. But you're going to maximize things by like rank 30 or so. Anyway, that is all. With regards to regular lords, just level them up as you would a legendary lord. Just keep in mind you don't have to worry about the special skill line. Senior, signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and stay tuned for more.